You're listening to The View from Up Here, an equipping podcast by Viewpoint Leadership and Development. Our vision is to cultivate a change in the way the world views leadership and development, and our mission is to foster better leaders through a modern approach while developing individuals into their true selves. My name's Brad Walbridge, your host for our time together, and joining me in our conversations is our president and founder, Josh Trout, and our COO, Joel Archeri. All right, I want to welcome in our viewers and our listeners to the View from Up Here podcast. Certainly appreciate everybody continuing to come back. We're here with Josh, our founder.
Yes.
And the man in charge, as we like to call him.
I don't know if I'll go that far.
You don't want to go that far?
No.
You know, we've done several episodes, and you know, we're not big on, you know, puffing each other up or anything.
Right.
But I do think it is important, just from the conversations we had early on about the organization and the podcast and the vision.
Yeah.
Just sitting around tables with each other.
Seems so long ago.
It seems so long ago, but as you hear each of the guests that we've had and responses that people have had to the website and to even with Joel doing some of his fishbowl sessions and the things that we're doing that we believe are different. They don't need to be unique from everybody else, but we do believe that they're different and disruptive.
Absolutely.
In some good ways.
Yeah.
You know, it really brings me back to this came from a place within you.
Yes.
And we talked a little bit about it in the episode that we did with you and Joel early on. But I think it'd be really good to just recap for everybody when it's just you and I here.
Yeah.
Where did this idea come from? And why is it such a driving force in you? Can you speak to that? I know that's a big question. But
no, that is a big question.
I'd love to hear it again.
It's a big question, but I think it's easy to answer in the fact of, you know, like many of us, we've had poor leaders, right? Yeah. We've had poor managers, we had poor leaders. And, you know, when we look at leadership, we want to always connect that to work, right, or occupation. But, you know, it's also the leaders within your home, right? It's your leaders within your church. It's leaders within your schools. And I think that where this is, you know, cultivated, right, over a long period of time has been from the struggles, from the hurts, from the disappointments, from those people that were supposed to be leaders within my life.
Yeah.
And you know, instead of taking the time to live in a state of pity, right? I have made the decision, you know, moving throughout my career, that I'm going to make the change, right? And even if it's a small change, you know, that was something I wanted to do. So, you know, I think the biggest part was first I had to understand who I was. I had to figure out, you know, what areas did I feel that I was let down, you know, both personally and professionally. And then once I was able to truly understand that, I was able to start to mold myself as a leader. Yeah. And when I was given the opportunity to be a leader and start to work with teams and work with people, I started to implement those things that I felt as though I missed out on from my leaders in the past and put them into effect. And when you start to see those things work and you start to see people buy into who you are and what you're trying to do, man, it drives you.
Yeah, I'm
right?
Sure.
It makes you excited. And once I started to see that it wasn't just a vision and something I was dreaming about, that it could actually be real, I said, you know, I have to play a part not only with my team, and within my home and within my church as a leader, but how can I help mold future leaders? Because we are already on a wrong path, right? In our country, especially when it comes to leadership and how we work with people and how we grow people. But you know what's crazy is the pandemic has just exposed it more than ever, right? Yeah. So that is really where this came from. This vision of Viewpoint, just having a platform to talk about what leadership looks like. What are the people yearning for in a leader right now? And how do you get the most out of those people that work for you? And it's not always about the dollars, right? It's not always about the success. It's about molding those people you're working with to become better human beings. And when you can do that, the whole business piece and the financial piece, it all falls into place. So that is, you know, where I had this dream of doing something like this. And I tell you what, you're going to hear a lot as we go through this. it's all about who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
Right? In everything. And boy, did I surround myself with the right people, and my vision just blew up. And it's not just me.
Yeah.
I had a vision, but it took all of us collectively to make it the where it's at today. And I can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, and it seems to have taken on a life of its own beyond just where you started with it.
Boy, that's it.
And I think that's a powerful statement of if you can have a vision for something, if you can create something or be a part of creating it, and approach it with an open hand.
Yes.
So much more can be done than by having a clenched fist.
No, amen.
If it's operated out of I am so insecure and I am so control freak that it all has to be mine exactly the way that it is.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have brought us all in, and you have said, I want you to play a part.
Yes.
And I'm going to play a part too.
Yeah.
And let's see where this goes, and let's
Absolutely.
see how each person's talent and giftings really make this thing go and make it better.
Yeah.
I am curious, though, when you speak to, and you have spoken over the past couple episodes, you've spoken to the ways in which leadership has failed you.
Yeah.
And you feel like there are some wounds and some scars there.
Yeah.
How do you manage approaching something like this, organization, the podcast, resources, speaking publicly, to provide that as a resource to people? How do you approach all of that and it not come from a place of bitterness?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think that if I'm going to be very vulnerable with you, there was a point in my life where it was driven by bitterness.
Yeah.
It was driven by this gotcha moment, right? The chip on my shoulder. I'm going to show these people, right? And guess what? That didn't work. My path was not going where it is right now. And I think that the biggest thing is we're all going to have failures. We're all going to have struggles and things that really hurt us deep, right? That leave wounds. And it's what you do with it. Yeah. Right. You can drown yourself in your sorrows and your pity and poor me and man, I had the crappy end of the stick. Right. And that all could be very true. Right. But what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
Right. No one's going to take it and fix it for you but yourself. So I decided one day that, being a religious person, giving it to God and saying, you know what, God, I'm no longer going to try to do this on my own. I'm going to hand it over to you. You know my vision. You know what I want to do. You open the doors. You give me the vision, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And, God has a funny sense of humor because he says, gotcha, dude. And then he opened up the floodgates. So at times it's been overwhelming. But I think that coming from a place of honesty and just telling my story, talking about those difficulties, not only from a personal standpoint, but a professional standpoint, and, not being embarrassed by it, right? I failed. I failed many times. Yeah. I'm going to fail a lot. Yeah. But what do you do with those failures? So I think that's a good question. I think that I was going down the wrong path, but I chose to take a different path and actually use it as motivation, not only for myself, but to help motivate others. So, if I can get ahead of a 21-year-old, right, and stop them from walking down that path that I had to go through and have all that, those crazy wounds, I want to do that, right? So that's really where that all comes from.
As you have shared your story, with people, whether it's at an event or speaking engagement or even just one-on-one working with a leader and coaching them, where do you feel like people have connected, maybe not completely with your story, but connected with your story the most, where they've said, hey, that really hit me about your story? Where have you seen that the most?
So I'm going to be very honest, and there may be some people in my life that don't like me saying this, but I'm a very transparent person, and I think that if you're going to find healing and if you're going to find true success, you have to be open and honest. Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things is one of what I feel as though I had family that supported me and loved me for who I was, I didn't have those people in my own family to help motivate me, right? Or lead me in the direction for a better me, right? Or a better future. And, we get so fixated on looking at people in our work lives that are holding us back. Yeah. But for you to be truly successful in anything you do, you have to know who you are, right? And that doesn't start at work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That starts in your life growing up as a child and those people that mold you, right? Because when you're born, you don't know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
You're learning from those that are parenting you or your families that are, around. So I think when I tell that story, and listen, my family was phenomenal, right? They're great people. But when it comes to, taking the right path in certain areas or making the right choices, I didn't have many that, led by example, right?
Yeah.
So I think when I'm open and vulnerable about that and say, I had to, at a very late age in my life, kind of reconfigure myself,
Yeah.
And break those old habits that were learned.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to learn a new way that is actually the proper way. People go, I was always afraid to kind of say that, but my mom holds me back. That's probably a problem.
Yeah.
Does your mom love you? Absolutely, she loves you.
Yeah.
Is she necessarily doing it on purpose to harm you? Probably not.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that that's not a wound that's holding you back.
Sure.
So I think that's the biggest thing. Oh, yeah, both can be true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think that's kind of unique, that seems to be something that a lot of people connect with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
When you've engaged with people about Viewpoint, and you've talked to other leaders, you've talked to other organizations over the time that this has been building, what have you shared with them as far as the vision for Viewpoint? What you see? I mean, now that we've got it going,
we got it going.
Where
Full
do you see it going? Where do you see it going as a benefit, not only to an organization that
absolutely.
wants to utilize Viewpoint, but the individual?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you speak to that for us?
Yeah, so Viewpoint, it's called Viewpoint Leadership and Development Company, right? And yes, we have a hyper focus related to leadership, right?
Yeah.
We want to cultivate a new way, a new modern approach to leadership that meets the needs of those people out there that you lead. But I probably should have changed it and said development and leadership company, because you have to have development as an individual first, before you can become a leader.
Yeah.
A lot of you might not like this, but those of you that are taking the leadership track, that you think you're going to be great leaders, there's a good chance there's a big percentage of you that are not meant to be good leaders.
Why is that?
Because not everybody has it within them, right? Okay. I feel that there's a lot of parts about leadership that you can learn, but I believe to be a true leader, it has to come within you. It's your personality. It's the core of who you are.
Yeah.
And sometimes with the leadership that people are looking for when it comes to servant leadership, or what I talk about a lot and I try to lead through, is leading through grace. You have to believe it.
Yeah.
You just can't say it, right? A lot of leaders read some amazing books. The books are great. But if you take that and try to make that you,
right,
and it's not who you are at the core,
sure,
it's not going to work.
Yeah,
right.
You're living a falsity.
Amen. And on the flip side of that, there's people that say, I could never be a leader.
Yeah.
That actually have every bit of leadership ability within them, and they just don't know it.
Yeah.
So how do we utilize utilize honesty to say, hey, you know what? I don't think this is the right path for you. But here's how we can help you to figure out who you truly are, and help walk you down that path. And on the flip side, those people that say, I was never meant to be a leader, we are able to pull that through by talking and working through our trainings and coaching. You know what? You do have the skills to be a leader. And here's why, and walk through. You don't have to be a leader, but I think it's very important for us to help identify that, because we don't want to miss out.
Right.
On future leaders that can make a change, make a difference, right? Yeah. So it's, Viewpoint is very much going to be based around personal development, right? Through coaching sessions, through mantra sessions, and it's not just about, personal coaching and executive and professional coaching, but, it's the holistic approach, right? So we brought in Christian counseling and coaching. We have, our health and wellness, Elvis on the one episode, you got to meet him. His shoulders are about the size of my truck, right?
Sure.
Great guy. But he is just a monster, and he just knows health and wellness really, really well. So, we want to be able to come and really work with an individual from a holistic standpoint to make them a better them, right? And then that's when I think we'll take it in the next step. right, and really focus on leadership curriculum. Here's what we have all seen through our past. Here's where we see things are working through studies, through research, through personal experience. This is what we're seeing that today's people, they're looking for in a leader.
Yeah.
So let's coach that. That is where we can't teach those pieces, right?
Yeah.
But we got to really figure out who you are at the core first to identify if you have it within you to take that next step.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So if I'm an organization or I'm an individual, we talked with Joel about what the process would look like if somebody is coming to him and you wanted to take those next steps. What is that going to look like as they want to take those next steps with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's going to be very similar to what Joel mentioned.
Yeah.
You can reach out to us via our website. The website has a lot of great information you can go on. It really breaks down what services we provide. And when you see those services that you think align with where you're at in this season in your life, you can reach out to us. We can talk through that and give you a little bit more of an update on, here's what we can do with you. And talk about that specific thing that you're reaching out about. But we try to do a one-time consultation to really dig deep into who are you, right? What's your why? What drives you? What are you looking to get out of this? Because there may be other things that we have that can help align with what you reached out to us about,
right,
to start to build a better you, right? Yeah. For either it's leadership or just personal development itself.
Yeah. So again, for our viewers, for our listeners, taking the next step by looking at the website and connecting with us and just starting to take some steps.
Yes, absolutely. It's just it's one phone call, it's one email.
Just take a step.
And I hope that you all, when you talk to myself and Joel and Brad, and you see who we are, I think that's why we want to do the podcast piece.
Yeah.
Is that we can talk about all the great things we can do and the things that we're able to offer. But I think that we want people to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I want them to see who we are as individuals.
Yeah.
Hear our stories.
Sure.
Hear that, guess what? Our struggles, our wounds are the same as yours.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the approach we want to take a little bit differently than most leadership and development companies, that we want them as the consumer to know who we are and feel comfortable that we're not going to come out there and, rook you and we're not out there just to make money.
Right.
We're actually out there to make people better and to make leadership better. And like you said, just take that chance to give us a call and we'll walk through that with you.
Yeah. I think for us as an organization, like our desire, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like our desire is to do away with generations of this polished exterior Teflon that you can't break through, and genuinely accept each other as, hey, we're human.
We're human.
We're flawed humans.
Yes.
Who are trying to step into communities and step into our homes and step into organizations to be able to lead them well.
Yeah.
By first leading ourselves well.
Absolutely. And we're in a weird space in this country, right? And I think that when I talked about, this company where, yes, it is driven towards work, right? Occupation, your career, like you just mentioned, it's about, we need to make ourselves better first.
Yeah.
And that hits every portion of our life. And, I heard Joel talk to you about anxiety and depression. And well, guess what? I might be teaching you about that. I still struggle. I still have my struggles. I've been a CEO of, a couple different hospitals. I run a hospital that has multiple employees, that I'm supposed to be the one that's the leader and the strong person, that unbreakable.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I have self-doubt issues. I have anxiety problems. I have my own mental health problems that sometimes I need to go talk to somebody like yourself, right?
Yeah.
You've been there for me, and walk through those things. And I think a true leader, you have to be vulnerable and say that. Yeah. You have to be able to connect with your people. And you just talked about that, right? That strong, old way of doing things,
right?
Where I am unbreakable and you will listen to me and I'm going to tell you, it doesn't work today.
No.
People want to know that they can connect with you, that you truly care about them as a person, not just a number, right? Yeah. And I think that you're right, Brad. That is definitely the approach that we're trying to bring to this company and to this podcast.
Yeah. I want you, as we kind of land this, with Viewpoint. I want you to speak to the leader who is starting out, maybe even the leader that's been doing this a while and it feels winded and feels like they're not good enough to continue to lead.
Been there, done that.
Just so many different phases. I want you to speak to that leader that's listening or that's watching and has that doubt, has that anxiety. You talked about vulnerability, just this vulnerable moment to be able to share with them something that they can hold on to be able to take that next step that they need to take, whatever that looks like. I'd love for you to speak to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing is you need to own it. You got to own the fact that you have your own problems in your own life, right? It's very lonely at the top, right? Our jobs as leaders, we are out there focusing on our people, right? We are trying to counsel them in all they do. And very rarely does anybody come in your office and say, hey, how are you today?
Right.
Right? I always said one of the most lonely parts of my day is when I'm leaving the hospital and driving home, right? Because I give my all at work and I'm going home, which is going to be a great place to go. But that in between, when I'm sitting by myself, all my struggles and all of my frustrations are hitting me full speed, right?
Yeah.
So I think that for those, leaders that have been leading, know that that's not going to go away. But what do you do with it? How do we manage it? I think that, being vulnerable and being honest with yourself, being honest with your staff is very important. When they can connect with you and know that you're just like them.
Yeah.
That goes a long way. And when you can get that buy-in from your staff, a lot of the struggles that you're going through, whether it be from a operational standpoint or a personal standpoint, or, we're all having staffing issues right now in the United States. A lot of those things will actually start to work out and start to get better when you can build a culture of safety and trustworthiness and honesty and vulnerability. That will help. Now, those that are just getting into it, I think that what I just said is also very important for them. Know that it's coming. Don't think you're going to get into this and it's going to be all wine and roses, because it's not. Be prepared for that. And I think that's important for you to start being vulnerable now before you get in that role. But I think for those of you that are trying to get into leadership, I think your most important part right now is to know who you are. Figure out who you are. Figure out what wounds you have. Figure out, what have those wounds done to you that drive you down certain paths in how you do things. Right. I think that's very important. And when you can really know who you are, that will help you to cultivate a good culture, a leadership approach that's going to be safe and healthy and ultimately successful. Yeah. So does that answer your question?
It does. I think there's definitely going to be people that hear you say that, recognize the importance of it and the value of it, but they're also going to be left with, gosh, that sounds risky for me to have that kind of honesty.
Yeah.
And that sounds incredibly hard, because I'm thinking about the 20, 30-year guy.
Yeah.
Even the 10, 15-year, and the ladies too, not just the guys there.
Yeah.
Who are in a leadership role and who have not had to think that way before, and now feel like, gosh, there's so much catch up that I have to do.
Humble yourself.
Yeah.
Become humble, right?
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's hard for somebody that's in it for so long.
Sure.
You may look at this and hear me go, yeah, okay, right? But, I can guarantee you that if you've been in this long enough, you're hitting some roadblocks, right? You're having some people that are no longer buying into what you're selling. Yeah. Right. And I think that you can go ahead and again, books are great, but I'm in the process of writing a book, right? I'm all about it. But the problem is you can go and read about, here's the top 10 ways to be a better leader. Mm-hmm. It has to come from a place from within, right? I think that there's so many employees that can read right through all the stuff that you're thrown out there that just came from a book, right? So I do think that those that are very, they're tenured and they've been in it for a while and they're just like, man, I'm stagnant. I'm not getting that connection with my staff. We're not moving like we used to move. I think you need to humble yourself. Talk to your staff. Ask them, what can I, as your leader, do better?
Yeah.
You know, what are qualities about me that you really like? What are qualities that you don't like?
Yeah.
You know, celebrate the success, celebrate the good qualities. Once you celebrate them, get rid of them.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We need to find those
There's
things
work to
that
do.
they're saying that I need to do better on. And I think that if you humble yourself, listen to those things, make those corrective changes, right? And just take a different approach, you're going to be surprised. You're actually going to wow people.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think that a new person coming in with this approach, that's all they ever known. But when you come into it with 20, 30 years of doing something one way,
Yeah.
and you get the buy-in from your staff and you listen and they know that you listen and you humble yourself and you become vulnerable with them, and then on top of it, you make those changes, look out.
Right.
I'm telling you, look out.
Because people want to follow that.
People want to follow that.
There's a difference between have to follow and want to follow.
Absolutely. You know, one last thing, Brad, if I can bring up that I do with my teams is the fact that, you know, back in the day, the old way of leadership is, you know what, I'm going to tell you as the leader, I want you to do all these wine and roses, right, things in the hospital or the organizations, and leave your crap outside of the hospital at the door.
Yeah.
Or the organization at the door.
Yep.
And come in here, do all these great things, put a smile on your face, and make our, you know, our outcomes great, and make people love our organization. And then when you're done, grab your stuff that you left there, that you have at home, all your problems, and pick it up on the way out.
Right.
Guess what doesn't work anymore? That doesn't work, right? You have to allow them to have a safe space for them to walk in with that, and we don't want them to use that in a way of it's going to be detrimental to your organization,
Sure.
right? But I actually tell in all my orientees, it's okay to bring it into the organization. I don't want you to use it for negative. But when you're coming into work and I'm asking you to do all these great things and you just can't muster it up because someone's dying from cancer in your family, or you can't pay your bills,
Yeah.
or you're just going through a drug addiction, you know, in your family, or whatever it may be, take that time. Just say, you know what, I need to take a time out.
Yeah.
And I made a culture where they can come to my office. I have sat on the floor in my office with grown men and grown women bawling their eyes out, and all I am is that shoulder to cry on.
Yeah.
If I can legally do something to help them, because there's
Sure.
a lot of HR policies out there, right?
Yeah.
I do. But man, you know what? Just that 5-10 minutes that you put your busy day aside
Yeah.
and give to your people,
So powerful.
they smile, and guess what? Not only are they going to go back out there and do what you asked them to do, they're going to do it 10 times better.
Right. And you don't want to be manipulative with that.
No,
It's
no.
got to be genuine.
It's genuine, yeah.
But that is that relationship piece, that is that connection piece that we have to be willing to take the risk
And
to be able to have
people will work for you. They will do great, great things.
that. Yeah.
You know, so I heard you say earlier, why it sounds so simple. Why is it so hard to do?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you why. You have to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
You got to get out of your own way.
That's it. That's it. Your selfish desires or your perceptions of what leadership is supposed to be, all that being pushed aside
Yeah.
and thinking about your people.
It's not about you.
That's right. That's right.
It's not about
We
you.
have so much more to say on that.
Yes,
too.
yes.
Yeah. Hey, Josh, thanks for
Yeah.
joining us on the episode.
Yeah. Thank you, Brad.
And I'm grateful for your leadership.
Well, thank
and
you.
just rallying us all together.
Well, I'm grateful for you. And I told you before we started the podcast, listening over these last couple recordings, God is good, man.
Yeah,
You know, he's helped me align with some amazing people, amazing leaders, and I can have the vision, but it's not going to go and be successful without all of you.
Yeah.
So I'm so thankful for you and everybody else on this team, and I think it's going to show just who we are and how we can help people. And if it's just that one person we make a change in, it's well worth it.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to connecting with you soon. Look forward to building that relationship with you.
Yes.
And we'll see you on the next episode.